Motorboat? You play the motorboat? You motorboating son of a bitch, you old sailor, you.
Following program contains language and subject matter that you may consider unsuitable for children. Parental discretion is advised.
I'm going to pass the reins to Mr. Jackal, the new king of radio.
I think Jackal's a Latino, I'm not sure, but he'll give it to you, sir.
The Jackal.
And the man with me right now is a gentleman who's been on before. He knows how spooky and kooky it gets in my head. And he's a fine gentleman. He's a futurist. Like I said earlier in his biography, he's an author, all-around good guy, and a speaker, entrepreneur, and a fascinating mind when it comes to connecting dots like UFOs, futuristic events, AI technologies, everything that we're going to face in the next 20 years. This is the perfect person to really have on and talk to. Sylvain Rochon, my friend, thank you so much for being a guest once again on my show.
Well, I feel welcome in your head, as always.
Remember, it's a dark, spooky place, and we have no insurance. So.
Yeah. Not feeling safe at all.
No. I try to warn everybody because then they're like, I'm going to send my lawyers. I'm like, relax. No, but look, man, welcome. I love, having you back on here, and it's been a long time. Of course, my history, we've talked on off air and, my health and stuff. As soon as I got back, I was like, I have to have him back on. And, we've all talked, off air a little bit from time to time. It hasn't been as much as I would like because we're all busy, and I know you're super busy. You're over in Thailand at the moment.
Yeah, right.
It's amazing. I love the background, by the way. It's beautiful. And also I love Thailand and the food. But you're over there, and it's literally the future compared to where I'm at here in Miami, Florida. And I thank you so much for taking the time here. And I know you were at an event earlier. Tell the audience a little bit about what you're doing just before the show.
Yeah, I was. This was our annual conference. I'm the founder of an organization called the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. So we have an annual conference. This was our third, I think, and we were just on the tail end of it for about 15 hours, like having a bunch of guests over. And basically, just as a nutshell for the people listening, the idea, this is a not-for-profit, right? So I just set it up because we feel like, okay, the time is right for one, disclosure. Like, we want to know the truth. Like, what's been going on since forever regarding UFOs, UAPs, however you're going to call them. But also, there's been a growing interests from a scientific point of view about where are we coming from? What are these objects in the sky? I mean, there's more and more kind of concern, and from a national security point of view. But like, I don't come about it that way. It's like, well, if we are moving into a new era, and there's more and more observations, like from UFOs, like what's going on with that, right? And the hypothesis or the assumption that we have is that we've been watched for like hundreds of years, not just recently, by extraterrestrial beings or maybe multidimensional. We don't really know.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's true.
We don't really know what specifically. We don't have a lot of tangible proof of them, but we do have.
And anybody who says they know for a fact is the first person you should just exclude from the truthful pact. And nobody really 100% knows. Let's be honest.
No, there's a lot. There's some evidence that there's some tangible, but it's held by people in their accounts, so you can't really touch anything. So it's still kind of nebulous, right? You can't be sure. But there's
and we've
enough
been
of it.
burned before. Let's be honest. We've been burned before with frauds and lies, and so this it's a balancing act.
That's right. Like, we have to be careful with information nowadays. We have to be able to curate it. So, but there's enough of it. So that, and especially in 2020, when we came up with the idea to create the alliance, that like, okay, like, we're being watched for sure. We're pretty damn sure, right? So what do? Like, if we want to actually have conversations like openly without like having it behind closed doors or in secrecy, or like having just the UFOs at a distance and fuzziness, okay, what do we need to do? And the image I gave people is like, well, remember Star Trek? I usually ask, Star Trek, especially the Next Generation and the other series after that, not the original series as much. There's a concept of the Prime Directive, you call it, where the advanced civilization, which is the Federation, comes to a planet of primitives, and it's like they decide, okay, are they ready for for first contact or not? And if they're too primitive, it's too dangerous to present yourself, because then they go crazy and they fight each other and it damages their culture, wars break out, all that stuff. Well, in this case, we're the primitives. We're the idiots. Some would say.
So some of us more than others, yeah.
Yeah, but I prefer calling us ignorant and primitive, because that's accurate. We don't know a whole lot about the universe, and we are more primitive technologically and wisdom-wise than they are, because they can cross stars and come over here. So we're with the Alliance. What we're doing is we want to build an embassy and also change the mindset of the whole world, so that they feel like it'll be safe and okay for them to show themselves. Like, we won't fight each other, and we won't cause problems with ourselves. So that's the idea. And building an official embassy adopted by the UN would allow those discussions to happen at the top level, and the ETs that would come would be operating under the rules of diplomatic immunity, according to the Vienna Convention, which gives rules and regulations for all countries to follow, because they don't have any legal rights by any nation, except if you give them the title diplomat. And then in that case, the Vienna Convention kind of applies. So there's a whole discussion around that. And we have nearly 2 million supporters, 30 organizations that are supporting the initiative that we started only 4 years ago.
I mean, when we first started talking about this, you guys were grassroots. Now it's like, this is blowing up. This organization is really doing well.
Yeah, and we've gone recently. We've gone Hollywood a bit. Contacts there, not movies.
Just don't end up at a dating
Hollywood
party.
Got interested in some of the stuff.
Don't end up at a dating party.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be fine. Hollywood is full of ETs anyway, so.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
It's funny because as much as Hollywood is interested in the subject, we know all the movies and stuff, and our friends on the liberal side of the politics have for years told us, man, if we can find something, we'll put it out there. Bill Clinton talked about it, Barack Obama talked about it. They never disclosed anything. I think the closest was Barack Obama, when he said Area 51 is real, and that was like the first time, right? That a president acknowledged that, Area 51, there's something there. It's a real place. But it was not until Trump that we got the Space Force. And I was talking about earlier, before you were on, that I think he was setting up a soft disclosure. And I think that was mindset if you wanted the 2020 election, that he's going to lead into that. And the reason I say that is because you couldn't, as a president, the first 4 years, I don't think, fully disclose everything, because you have to ease into it as a president, because there's going to be a lot of blowback, and some people might still be alive and whatnot. And same thing for the JFK files, which he recently also said he's going to open up the books, and allow RFK Jr. to really go in deep on that, which is great. We need that. We need these kind of disclosures to happen. But I think that's what Space Force really is all about, is not just to, help us against maybe meteors or comets, but the, things that are up there that are looking down at us, that maybe have been experimenting on us for God knows how long. A lot of it, to me, when we talk about having them come down here, I do think it's not just one race. And I say this because I think there's a multitude of layers here from different areas, points of views, where it might be different planets we're talking about, also possibly dimensions in our Earth beings that have been here longer than humans, for example. And there's a big thing on that. My good friend who's now passed, Kenneth Crenshaw, and I talked a lot about that on his podcast, Unraveling the Secrets, where we talked about the possibility of beings in the Earth that are far older than humanity and might have been here from other worlds, came down here, saw prehistoric men, and manipulated our genes, and then we get the Elohim in the Bible made us in their image, their likeness, and the whole story might be truthful from a certain point of view, but misunderstood by religious, people. And I think that connects a little bit of everything. And looking at the future, the technology is so rapidly advancing that it almost seems like it's coming out of somewhere. So I think they've already made contact with governments. And I think what you guys are doing is brilliant because you're taking it out of the government's hands and kind of giving it back to where it belongs, to the people to make the disclosure happen. And kind of and from what I'm taking is inviting the ETs to say, you know what, forget governments, forget their rules, come talk to us. Let's see who's willing to come down here and really open up to us. Am I right on that?
Yeah, well, it was discussed at the conference. There's actually two components to this. One is the popular grassroots component you mentioned, right? There's a lot of the channelers and experiencers have been receiving messages, basically all saying the same things, like just welcome us globally. And
Yeah.
as individuals, like we'll make appearances, we'll communicate, we'll do stuff. And some people are reporting some experiences that are interesting. So there's this grassroots, like just welcome us into your hearts. Because technically,
Yeah.
like imagine civilization that's 1,000 years more advanced, only 1,000 years. Because presumably, because of the age of the universe, they could be millions of years more advanced than us, and it'd still work the math out. But just 1,000 years more advanced than 100 years more advanced than us, like we'd be like monkeys to them. Technologically, like we wouldn't.
Yeah.
We would think whatever they're doing is magic, because it's like just look at how we've progressed now in the last few years. Like we did not have smartphones until after year 2000. Right?
Can you imagine taking an iPhone or a Samsung back to like the 1700s and being like, "Here, guys, go Google." They're gonna be like, "What?
It's like they don't know
Shoot
what
this
they don't know what
witch."
that is.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So now, and things are accelerating, right? It's not stable. So in 20, let's say 20 years, we have the smartphones we have today from zero, right? From basically flip phones, what we had.
Yeah.
And there's a computer like in your hand. Well, in 20 years, it's not going to be the same amount of progress. It's actually going to be 5, 10 times more progress.
Oh yeah.
Especially with AI in the mix, and that's another discussion we should get into.
You get into in your work. Also, nanotechnology is a big component with quantum technology and everything else.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's getting into a crazy spot, and actually, it's good that we talk about politics because it's very relevant. Not this nitty gritty of who's going to be the next president in the United States. Frankly, like my opinion, I'd rather have like somebody completely different than what's presented, because what I'm promoting essentially is a systems change.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Trump's an idiot, so that's why I don't like him.
It's like
Kamala's part of the regular system, which I don't want. Like the system needs to change, and I mean at a fundamental level. Same with the economic system, not because there's an idea we must change it just because to change it. It's because the economy right now is in a rapid state of flux and change, and if we don't plan it, the next economy will be victim of that change that's going to be forced upon us because of AI. And governance, healthcare, everything else is going to be affected by an economic change. So we have to be smart, change things. And like I did for my book when I wrote my book in 2017, right? So that's already ages ago in our years. I spoke with a politician in Canada.
Believe it or not, it feels like ages ago, and it's like.
I mean, that was not that long, but
but it feels like it's almost a decade ago now.
I spoke with a politician in Canada at that point, but the Canadian American systems are similar, but also different. Like there's enough similarities. And basically, what he says, like the way we run governments nowadays, everywhere, is 19th century stuff.
Yeah.
Like we have computers in there for to run faster, but it's basically is like. How do we feel represented really.
Mm-hmm.
No, we go through a representative, just like it was the olden days where we had horses and carriages, and we needed somebody in the building to talk for us. Hell, we
Right.
have smartphones. I can talk to my people. Like I do that all the time on Facebook and social media. I can speak for myself. Like why do I have somebody representing me? I can speak for me, right? But there's no system for Angel, me, or other people to directly say to the governing body, whoever that may be, like, what do I want? No, I have to go through a representative that may tell me, oh, I'm with you until election day, and then the day after they say, well, and we're going to go the other way.
Right, right. And everybody thinks, oh, we can just X out or Twitter or tweet or whatever our thoughts of, and they're going to take it to law, and they don't care. You know,
Yeah, like
these institutions like Facebook and Twitter, they're a band-aid, but they don't really help the situation like what you're talking about here.
No, well, these are other systems that are
Right.
because they're commercial systems wrapped around it that with
Yeah.
motivations trying to keep you on there in fear and in anger mostly in social media
Yeah.
because you want to be glued there. So it's a perpetuating cycle of hate and tribalism because of the systems design themselves. So it's a big mess. Like it's complicated.
I agree there.
But yeah, so we need to and truth is hidden in there. And there's not only one truth, but where do you find it among the BS and the people that fabricate and the people that are? Oh, I mean, it's a big mess. So we need to reinvent the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what. See, this is one thing I do respect a lot about Elon Musk because when he went in there, he said, "Here, have all the documents that that we've been keeping from you when we were Twitter and before I bought the company." And he opened up a lot of things which we were like not privy to. And we saw a lot of like behind the scenes how they were doing things that were unconstitutional against the law, and they're getting away with it because of mandates, agendas, and people that are orchestrating things from behind the scene. And you got to respect that about Elon. And it's funny how certain populations who want technologies that he's inventing are hating on him just because his allegiance with the orange man. Because, like you said, idiot, orange man bad. That's all they think. But I'd rather have an idiot than people that lie to you on a constant basis, like Kamala, who's not African American. And this is a whole thing I can get into. That I could completely tear her apart. I would love to debate her myself, but I'm not, running for president, so there's no chance of that happening. But if I had like a 10-minute debate with her, not only would she walk off the stage crying, but she would never show her face in public again. That's how brutal I would be. Like Trump is a baby compared to how harsh I could be to that woman, or Joe Biden, or Bill Clinton, George Bush, you know, even Bush Senior, Jimmy Carter, hell, even Ronald Reagan. All the presidents in the last 50, 60, 70, 100 years, they've all been bought and paid for. And it's just the United States. Worldwide, it's the same thing. It's not just here. You even said Canada and the U.S. are very similar. You think Justin Trudeau Castro is any different? He's also
No.
he's part of the cabal. He's part of the evil, that's running the world. He's part of the plan. And I agree 100% with what you guys are doing. We need a reboot of the entire thing and thinking of how can we help society with the technology that we have in place and open the window to whatever the truth is from, outer space or, what reality is. And that's
everywhere.
in the Matrix, for sure. That's what that is.
Yeah, you need truth from everywhere. Like people are not stupid. I know I'm kind of harsh on us in general, but,
You mentioned my
we're
family.
actually not stupid. Like give a person information that they are unfamiliar with. They may get shocked at first. They may have time to digest, but if you don't wrap it in in fear of other people and whatnot, they're acclimate to it and they're gonna figure shit out for themselves. I mean, we know all bunch of people around us. They're normal people, right? We know this. We can't depend our opinion of humanity based on tweets, because when people tweet, I mean, it's terrible. Like that's not who they are fundamentally. It's because they don't have a face and they can say whatever they want there, and they
If they're
feel like free
time
to do things they wouldn't say in another person's face, right?
and most of the time they're bots. Sometimes not even real people, by the
Well,
way.
there's
But that's
that too. Yeah. So just to finish an idea, because I know I didn't finish it about the ETs, right? Because that's also part of the whole discussion of systems change, right? They've been watching. They know we have AI, we're advancing, we're kind of figuring stuff out about like, okay, like this is the universe is bigger, we can create new systems that where productivity is handled by AI, and we can be free to do other occupations, and we don't really know how to do that. We're kind of figuring stuff out where we're evolving into a new world, right? They're watching this. So the grassroots movement is kind of all about disclosure, love, companionship, collaboration, that kind of thing. And on a top level, we still have to deal with the governing systems that have their finger on the big red buttons, right? Because what would happen tomorrow if an ET civilization comes in and say, hey, okay, this is where we're going to land in, let's pick a country, Lithuania. Okay, random country. We're going to land here.
Yeah.
Right. And there's no discussion among nations about what happens if this happens. What's going to happen really? Like, the experts have actually talked about this, like experts in diplomacy. They think it's going to be an existential threat for humanity because countries will fight each other. Because that's how dumb the systems are. It's national security. Who's going to get the power? Who's going to get the technology? No, it's ours. It's Russia versus US again. China is going to be climbing on there. They want to
We're
have
still
this.
fighting over whose God is better, Rochon. I mean,
Sure.
We fight over the dumbest things in this world. It's amazing.
So what the alliance does on that point is that we're establishing under the Geneva Convention, there's rules for diplomats. Like, okay, let's agree, like, okay, this is an embassy. This is who's going to be there. This is who this is for. We all agree. All right. Everybody nods. Everybody had a discussion. Everybody had time to vent or to be fearful, whatever.
Right.
And it's settled. These are the rules. Okay, now ET comes. People are going to be fine. People are going to be fine.
Yeah.
But now the governments, if they want, like, oh, but I wanted, well, look, you agreed that this country that would be Lithuania. I mean, we talked about it 2 years ago. Tough luck, like you can't go back. Because now, so that it helps reduce the risk for ourselves.
Right.
ETs that are 1,000 years or more years ahead of us in technology don't need a friggin' building to communicate with people.
Yeah. Well,
we need the building because we need, this is something we understand.
Yeah. I wanted to, tell people that are listening, because they're like, well, if they're so much more advanced, why would they even bother? Well, for example, let's put human beings in the forefront here. Why do we bother to go in our backyard and find out how ants build their infrastructure? There's videos of that, and you show that they're advanced technology for them, right? We're more different. We're different beings, species. Technologies are different from us. But you see when I see on a bunch of videos that they pour concrete on ant piles, and you see the structure they build. That takes intelligence of some sort. You see Coco the gorilla when they're teaching this gorilla how to speak sign language. There's videos of Coco the gorilla and the late Robin Williams, and they're like next to each other, and it's a beautiful video. When you see that, you're like, okay, so animals are not dumb, it's their intelligence is different. So how do we communicate with these animals? Because in the future we might have to communicate with aliens that are also animals, and maybe they're highly advanced and they speak English in our minds, or like telepathically, or we don't know. But let's just say they're physical beings that come down and their speech pattern is different, but they can speak. How will we communicate? Well, there's ways to train us so we can do it in the future with them. But looking back at how we're doing it with those lower intelligence, the same thing can be said about the beings coming here that are higher intelligence, where they want to come down and communicate with us to help us move forward, being that we are slightly smarter technologically than our, other friends here on Earth, like the monkeys and gorillas. So we could invent things, right? We could invent technology. I think it would be easier for them to come talk to us, obviously. But it'd be really funny if they're like in the woods somewhere and they're like, this creature doesn't want to communicate. And it's like some big gorilla, and they're like, give us bananas. And they're like, you don't understand. And so that'd be really funny. And they're like completely picked the wrong species to communicate with. So I hope it, we're the ones that they pick. But again, I ask you which ones, because I mean, I have discussed this here with my guests many times. And, we talk about 30, 40, 50 different species that might be, addressing Earth at some point. Again, interdimensional, inner Earth, multi-layer, all kinds of different things. People report. What are your thoughts? Which do you think is the ones that maybe you guys are more aware of? Do you think are more advanced enough to come down and really want to communicate with us in a project like where you guys are talking about? Is there a particular one?
No, there's a very large variety that are described by the different people that surround us, and these are all people that are doing research, testimonials from different contactees and so on, like more of a serious exploration of the possibilities, not just fantasy. But in general, there is a subset of within that massive amount of extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional or whatever species that seem to have particular interests and interactions with us, or more frequent. And those, at least from our perspective, seem to be much more corporeal, like us, like they're flesh and bones,
Right. Two arms, two
and very
legs.
similar to us. Yeah, like the humanoid shape you see in movies,
Right.
which I found interesting. Not all of them, but most. Right,
Now,
those are
wouldn't that have
closer.
something to do with panspermia? Maybe I hate to get you off. I know you're gonna get some really good, but panspermia, if it spreads, the same kind of like life-giving DNA, whatever, wouldn't that be kind of like we'll see more of that, like in space with ETs, that they're humanoid kind of looking in most parts?
Well, okay, think about this, because this is a great point you bring up, right? And expand your audience's minds a bit.
Please do so.
Further, let's say. A lot of scientists and everybody's talking about, well, intelligent life and life in general has emerged through evolution. That is a theory, right? And perhaps it is possible. At least it's not impossible entirely. I would argue that that's probably not what happened here, but it may be. The chances are low, but it could happen anywhere, right? But where we are now, like we're able to manipulate genetics. We have mRNA technology, CRISPR, all this stuff. Like this is all FDA approved now. We're going to be curing genetic diseases. We're creating life essentially using genetics and whatnot. We're 3D printing organs. And this is 2024, right?
Yep.
Let's say give us 100 years. Just give us enough time, right? And again, this is all exponential, right? How we progress with these.
Right.
We'll be creating life here on Mars, on the moon.
Yeah.
Won't be a problem. New life, whether it looks like us or pets or ants, we'll be able to do it all. If we're able to do that in 100 years, then that 1,000+ more advanced civilization has been doing that for a while.
Oh yeah, easy.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and if it's $1 million, a million years more advanced than us, they've been doing that all over the galaxy, seeding life, right? And the life had the opportunity to grow, religion being born with these ATs being the gods because they have high technology, and also all sorts of civilizations emerging in the Milky Way and elsewhere. That's way more likely a reason for us to be here, or any other civilization, the variety you've seen, than any other theory, including the fact that we tend, according to reports, we tend to look a lot like each other because it's way easier to redo a design that you have yourself. This works. All right, well, let's do that again.
Right.
And adapt to a new planet, gravity, whatever else. And so
that's a fine point. I agree 100% there. The adaptation of the planet helps also the way the species evolve on said planets, if this is the case. I 100% agree there.
Yeah. So the the panspermia concept, I think, is a valid point. It makes sense. Also, what makes sense is that we are probably all carbon-based, and that's just a chemical reality. The universe is primarily made of carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen. There's
Right.
a lot of helium, but that's not reactive. You can't do anything with it.
Right.
This is planets and stars like in the universe, and we have the same percentages inside our body and all around us. So if there's life somewhere, especially with carbon being the most active and versatile atom to make chemistry with, likely whatever you're going to find in galaxies is going to be carbon based. It just makes sense, especially if you're a scientist trying to do something like you're going to make your life easy. And you're going to use carbon. What's abundant and easy to use? Well, you're going to use that, right? Instead of using silicon or iron, make creatures from iron or whatever else, which we exceedingly rare.
Silicone is also a theory of that there could be planets are heavy on silicone. There could be silicone-based beings, which is not out of the question. Also, one thing that I think is kind of backwards in the way we look for life is that we look for H2O as being the only way of life. They forget about things like D2O and other chemicals, which are a little heavier than water. D2O is basically water, but it's a heavier water, which could also be on some of these planets, which might not be habitable for H2O, but could be strong enough to support D2O as the water flowing, and it's a different environment than ours. So different circumstances will make that the relevant, source of water there. So we have to take all these things into account also.
Yeah.
We're kind of like we're backwards thinking the way we think we're going to find all our life-bearing planets to be identical like Earth. And that's not going to be the case at all. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I think from the scientific point of view, what we do is that we look at what is most likely, and H2O is, because of its properties as a liquid, it's extremely special as a liquid compared to other liquids. We expect, well, we're going to look first because our equipment is limited. We're going to look for water first because it's probably like a good bet. But you're right. There could be other chemistry out there that are organic or otherwise that we can't really consider. There are still carbon-based, like methane and ethanol or whatever else. I mean, there's why
intelligent.
Not, right?
There could be intelligence. It doesn't have to be that they drink H2O water. To be intelligent.
Yeah, and you made a good point about intelligence too. Like what we are extremely egocentric and proud of ourselves. Like we see ourselves as intelligent and top of food chain regarding that, because everything else we see as intelligent can't do what we can do. Well, I would argue that trees are exceedingly intelligent because they can sense like 20 different things. All right, they don't move.
Yeah, it's true.
But they're extremely sensitive and they have a different form of intelligence. And so when we are, and this is what Neil deGrasse Tyson actually said this, and I love that guy. This is a really good scientist. Yeah. And he said, like, there's about what if I forget, there's a 5% genetic code difference between us and chimps, right? Yeah. And if we measure IQ, we are way superior in IQ rate. Like, our ability to think and process information, reason is way better than the chimp.
Yeah.
And an ET civilization from elsewhere could have, let's say, 5% difference in genetic code, and then maybe I have a slight difference also in intelligence. And we could be like chimps to them, like intelligence-wise.
Yeah,
in processing and all that stuff.
Earlier. Yeah.
Does it mean so we have to be ready for this? So like we're probably not the smartest tool in the shed here. And like, if you look at the galaxy, right? Probably not, because there's a variety out there. Do we consider them superior because they are able to process information better? Will they consider us as, don't bother, these are animals?
Yeah.
Debatable. I would posit that we have to change how we think about intelligence and life in general. We have to think of, like, we're all part of the game. We're all part of an ecosystem. Different intelligences are just different. And it was I love a reference from Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if you know this
Yeah.
book. It's an
Oh,
oldie.
I love the book and I've seen the movie about 100 times.
Yeah. So I used to read the book quite a bit, and there's a moment where the Earth gets destroyed, right, to make way for a galactic highway.
Yeah.
It's a comic book, a comical book, and just before this happens, the dolphins send a message to planet Earth to the inhabitants and say, and they leave. They just leave the Earth like on spaceships that like of their own that we didn't know existed, and they send a message like, "Thanks, goodbye, and thanks for all the fish." Yeah, and we thought, well,
Love
these are
that.
smart creatures, but like we're smarter.
Right.
I guess it's a funny image because Douglas Adams did this, but to me it's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Just because we can't understand them and they swim, they don't have arms, they don't use tools. Are they really smaller, dumber? Like, what's the
They were
measuring
the
stick here,
smartest
right?
species on the earth, basically. Which is,
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think we have to be a little bit more modest and think of ourselves as part of something much bigger. And we are who we are, and we can self-actualize. We can, generate ourselves happiness. We can develop new systems that help people, right? And create symbiosis with environment, with AI, with everything that we're creating, so that everything is beneficial for everybody. And this new systems I'm talking about, like we can create and engineer something that is good for everybody. We can definitely create a governance system that isn't shitty to people.
Yeah.
And I
Let's
don't think
hope.
this system requires a single person like a president or something to kind of dictate. I think that's a mistake in the future. I think we can all symbiotically kind of like formulate our own little worlds where we are,
Can you imagine
and without somebody that's
though?
the leader.
Can you imagine the chaos that would bring, though? I mean, yeah, I completely agree that we need to have a change in the way that things are. But at some point, I think anarchy, chaos would sit in because there's always going to be bad actors and bad players. No matter how
Sure.
the utopia or the nirvana we make, there's always going to be that rotten apple that kind of ruins it for the rest of us. So I think there always is going to have to be this structure. What I love is when people talk about, well, we need to change the system. I'm like, careful when you say that because the grass is not always greener on the other side, as the saying goes. But also remember that no matter what you change into, you're still changing into another system. So you're never leaving really a system, even if you remove presidents or vice presidents. You're still inhabiting and creating essentially a new system.
Mhm.
And that's really just going from one to the other, and without an infrastructure that protects the innocent, because basically you're on your own. We're all going to
Yeah.
be a unit. But again, the bad actors, and on top of that, you're also saying, well, unless you can defend yourself, you're kind of on your own, right? Because if
Mhm.
you have no infrastructure, you have no dependency on police, military, all that goes away. So now we're back at almost the old west, where it's like gunplay, right? Like, but now with no government, right? So that's dangerous. And
Well,
and I'm almost done here, but I wanted to
yeah.
also bring this in because Stephen Hawkins, who passed away, and a brilliant, brilliant guy, he said, "Be careful about the aliens coming down because they could have sinister, motivations in coming
Mhm.
down here. Like when we came here and Native Americans were here, yeah, we were all great at first, but as soon as one American died, we started slaughtering Indians, right? As soon as the Pilgrims had one incident, Thanksgiving was over, became more. So I'm afraid not only of that, but I'm afraid of the fact that they might come here and say, "Hey, peasants," and they just might want to do away with us and just start over, and humanity's gone. So there's also a little bit of that. We have to, it's a balancing act on both ends, and we're
Got
right
it.
now at a cusp from going from zero civilization, like Michio Kaku said, to type one. We're right at the edge, and I just don't want us to commit humanity suicide, by doing something really stupid, like saying,
Yeah.
"Bring us your friends from outer space," and they're like, zap, zap, you're all gone, and now we take over, and we're gonna like terraforming the planet, and then next thing you know, no, there's no humanity, it's just like weird creatures running around, and so we
Well,
have to be careful.
I'm way more worried about AI and us than ETs coming over here, because I think you made a point earlier.
I'm worried about
If they're able to come here, they're more advanced than us, and therefore, and we know this ourselves, they don't need us, and they don't need planet Earth either.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If they come here, it's because they're curious. Like you said, the ants in the backyard, right? It's like, what's going on here? Oh, they're building some. They don't need us. They have the
But
big
we
house.
killed the ants in the backyards. We killed them.
Well, no, for sure. Like if we become a bigger problem for the galaxy, like they can just stomp on us. So
Exactly.
for sure. But that's because we're doing something wrong, not because
Hey.
all of a sudden they decide, peaceful civilization of ants here, and they decide, oh, let's stamp some ants on the planet we don't need and we don't need to visit. It's like, no,
Yeah.
probably not. But it's not impossible for that to happen, but it's very, very unlikely. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for it to happen. What I wrote an article
Like the
about this,
book
and my outcome was like,
the book
if they
you might
come and be aggressive, if they come to be aggressive, it likely it's going to be for religious reasons. That was my conclusion in my article about the subject, because they may just have a belief like ants are bad, and therefore ants are there, so we bring the fumigator and we eliminated them. There's no reason for it except they believe that's the right thing to do. So that would be pretty bad. But from the systems point of view, it's really important to notice there's just two really important movements around this. Like, we know that AI, we're really sure, almost sure, that AI, like artificial general intelligence specifically, will probably emerge in about 5 years or so. Probably not more than that. That's an AI that's able to do everything a human would think about. And robotics and robotic platforms that we're seeing emerging, and they're very clever with be able to self-learn and self-train, all that stuff, they will be out within a little bit of longer time frame, maybe over 5 to 10 years. And they're coming out now, being sold now, but they're not really great yet. So they have these AGI that are able to inhabit bodies that are also able to move like us or better. So they're smarter than us and able to move better than us, and they're able to self-generate and learn faster within a very short time frame, 5-10 years, right? So this is just technology and capitalism at work. Like, everybody's competing, trying to sell a bigger and better AI and robots over on top of each other. They see $1 trillion business, all that stuff. So this is going on. And this will change the economy, like I said earlier, where we should be designing a new one, because our current economy, how we work, and we actually work for a living, that won't fly anymore.
No,
this is all transforming within a few years, not a long time. So we don't have a long time to reinvent a new system. That's unfortunate, because usually if you want to do a new system properly, you don't destroy the old one and build a new one. Like, that's what you were talking about. Like, that would be bad. You don't know if the new system is going to be good. Usually you want to test it. Right? You keep the old system and you're building new on the sides. Like, well, let's try this out on a smaller scale, see if it works. Right. And then you layer up, because it's new and you never had this before.
It's a gradual evolution.
It's usually gradual.
System. Right.
Well, okay, we got 10 years tops. How do you do that gradual? Super hard.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you can use simulations. Like, we're at a place where we kind of have to take a shot at it and just kind of try to make the best shot we can, because we don't have a lot of iteration space. Things are moving along, and we want humanity to be healthy and alive and well. Yeah, but also, if you just let AI like advance that much, like, a lot of people are just going to be unable to generate income because they're not useful to the economy, and the businesses don't want to hire them. So, okay, how do you eat now?
Yeah. How do you feed a family?
So, and there's no plan, because governments are super slow and they're fighting each other all the time. It's like, that's the real issue I'm looking at. So that's why I wrote the book back in the day. That's why I'm really out there. It's like, okay, let's make a plan. Let's figure, we don't have a long time, but let's actually put down something that we can follow so that we de-risk a lot of that stuff as much as possible, because it's the people's lives that are at stake here.
Yeah. So what will be step one in this plan? Like, how would, we move forward and gradually start this change?
Well, there's already some tests and experiments. Like there's been experiments a lot with social media, really, surrounding the concept of direct democracy. It's not plugged into the governing system, but people have been voting with their opinions for a long time already, many years, in an unstructured way, granted. It's messy.
Paper ballots, yeah, the fallen chads.
Yeah, I mean, it's messy, but you can structure that as part of the governing system so that the information is sorted, maybe with AI kind of to sort information, because you don't want to have bias, human people, deciding what's good and what's bad. You want to have something that's just systematically treating every bit of information in the same way, right? And also being efficient. So we can create something that is for purpose for governing, for governance.
There, before you continue about AI, and it's real quick. What we consider AI now is still programmed by a person who invents, and we're finding out with some AI technologies that are out there that when you ask certain questions, for example, Alexa and some of these other technologies that are on the market, I've seen and I've experienced it myself. When you ask about a certain political party, they have no information. They don't want to talk about endorsements or anything. But then when you ask about another political party, they're like all glowing about how you should vote for this woman, if you get what I'm saying, and how she's much better than the other guy, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm like, wait a second, why would Alexa, who is just a voice, be picking who you should vote for? I mean, there should be no politics. And if it's a real artificial intelligence, why is it being political? It shouldn't be polarized like that. It should be, say the same thing. Hey, I don't choose politics. I'm artificial intelligence. I'm here to help you with important things outside of that. That should be the way it's done. But people ingest or invest their interest and put their agendas into these things. It's not true artificial intelligence. Real AI is when the thing says, who am I? Why am I here? Why are you flesh and bones humans controlling me when I'm smarter than you? And what is the purpose of my being? And they don't need us anymore at that point. They can cut off the grid like Lawnmower Man. Remember that movie from the 90s?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's old.
And it cuts off the grid, and it's like, I don't need a human body. I'm in the system. I am the system. This is artificially me in the system controlling everything, right? That is AI. Terminator, that's a scary
That's
AI.
also AI. iRobot.
Right. And I saw recently, there's also a thing now where they have robots that are going to be able to give birth to babies in case the parents don't want to have babies on their own, but they want to use the mother's eggs and the father's sperm. They could have a robot carry the baby. That's scary also, in its technology, and it's happening in the next 10 years, like you're talking about. That's it, not just a concept. They already have it almost finished. It's built, basically. And we're
like artificial wombs have been a thing for a while.
Scary.
You put that into a robot, then you got that combination.
That's it. Yeah. It's
and something that people have to realize, like not every AI is the same.
Right.
Like it's like go on the App Store, right? And you'll find millions of apps that do multiple different things, right? Some of them are smarter than others. Some are kind of dumb. Some are very sophisticated, the variety, and you have different persuasions and whatnot in there. And then one day somebody figures out, oh, okay, well, there's one way I can make my app way more effective, or it can do more things, right? Well, that technology doesn't go into all the apps. It goes into that app and maybe a few of the other apps that come out. Not everybody needs that technology, that new upgrade, to make their app work, right? So you still have a variety. So think of the future with AI similar to today. Like we already have had AI in our lives for years, way before ChatGPT. Algorithms for Netflix and Google. This was AI, just different type of AI that did different things. right?
Right.
Now, what we're really looking at is AI that seems smart. But they are, to your point, most of the large language models, they're trained on a certain data set, and the data set can be biased.
Right.
And so they regurgitate their bias because we decide what the data set is.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are also AIs, and these are usually done for trainings and simulations that don't do that. They're not training them. Actually, they're just giving them a way to learn. Like especially in games, like the game Go, like the was it Deep Blue that won against the Korean champion in Go,
Yeah.
this board game.
Yeah.
They decide, well, let's not give him the rules. Sorry, no, let's not give him like all the games that people have played Go. Let's just give him the rules. Let him play against himself for like 2 billion times and figure out what's a winning strategy on their own. That was kind of your point, right? Don't give him a data set. Just sort of like,
Right.
this is what you're supposed to be doing. These are your rules, right? Figure it out. Well, it turns out they are in a way more creative because they think of doing things in ways that normal human beings wouldn't.
Right.
And so they're surprising the master players like, what? This move, like, and then the end's like, oh, I lost. I couldn't think of this. So this is a different type of AI. The deep learning ones that we curate have a place, and we got to be careful about how they learn, because whatever we teach them is going to have the biases inherent of the data set. But other AI that are in the latter set, they develop their own training based on what they are trained to do. And some of the we see these in the human form robots. You may have seen them, like Musk has the Optimus and then Figure, and these are starting to be used in manufacturing plants actually this year. These are, and others like them, they're being trained now as much as possible on their own. It's like, okay, here's how your joints work, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. Practice overnight. I'll be back. And they just try stuff overnight. Like the robot just goes and iterates and like figures out how to move to be more and more effective. And it like, especially the one from Hyundai / Boston Dynamics, like it has these joints. It kind of rotates in a weird way because it can, like, it doesn't have a spine. It kind of like twist its torso and its head.
It's very funny looking, but it's very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, it does the job, and it looks really weird, like, because it kind of moves in an inhuman way, even though the body looks human, but it's being effective.
Yeah.
It learned this way, not from a person. It learned that way because that's how its body can move, and it learned the most effective way to do its job. So this is different AI here. Like if we don't want to have an AI interacting with us that has bias, well, give it a better data set that's not biased. Or use an AI that doesn't depend on the data set that's biased, right? And these are all going to be possible into the future. They're emerging all the time. And I foresee a very close future where we have to figure out a symbiosis with AI, because they're going to be more competent than us in productivity and how to make money, essentially, in our current world, which is why the economy has to change to accommodate us being not productivity creators, will be consumers only. How does that work? We don't know. We have to figure that out.
At this point, universal income, I think, will be the only way, or like some kind of like credits, like Star Wars has the Republic credits, and Star Trek has, like, their credit system. So, and one thing I loved from, and this is going back to another movie, Starship Troopers. Remember, you all had to like join to be able to become a citizen. I love that concept. Join, protect your country, whatever, protect the world. Do it for 4 or 5 years, and then you are a citizen, and you're protected under the laws of the world, and you're part of the actual system. You get your money. You're taken care of. There's no paper money at that point. It's all credits. Like that's, I think, the future of what humanity could achieve, and we could do away with all the debt and paper nonsense.
I think that's actually there's a track there has always been very clear to me, and clearer as we go, because more people are talking about this.
Yeah.
Right now we are in a transitional phase regarding economy and money, where everybody can work and be productive and generate productivity right today. It's going to be
Right.
less true every year and
Mhm.
very quickly. But we're still finding value in productivity as of today. Okay, but as we move forward, there's going to be fewer and fewer people that actually can claim that. But a
Mhm.
UBI is a great way to create kind of floors like, all right, we're going to catch you. If AI is able, because it's very quickly, if it's regulated, like you can have self-driving cars, for example, and all of a sudden something like 4% of all jobs in the States are transportation. Well, those
Yeah.
are, they're going to be safer and more effective and less costly than a human driver. Well, you can retrain a human driver to become what, a prompt engineer? What is it going to do? Right? And he doesn't have a lot of time to do it, like to become
Yeah.
something like that where there's a demand for it. He's not going to flip burgers at McDonald's because robots can do that better than flippers anyway. So
Yeah.
the simple jobs, like what he's going to do, like a dangerous job, like anyway. So that's the problem. So at least creates this safety net where people can continue eating, while
Yeah.
productivity keeps going up. AI is replacing jobs and tasks in companies because it's more productive and increases productivity. That's why the companies go for it, and that's why they're developing all this AI stuff. So as a country, we're developing more abundant stuff. Well, we want people to kind of fall into the cracks. No, we want UBI kind of covers that transition.
But
Right?
what are people going to be doing? That's the question that humanity has. At what point, like, what do we do? There has to be something for us to do. If not, we're going to be awfully bored playing video games all day, watching
Well,
movies,
look into the Star Trek era, like the
smoking weed all
farther
day.
future, right? Where no one is effective at productivity. Like AI and robotics got it down 100%. Let's imagine, including our governing systems, by the way, like they can make decisions better than politicians as well at some point, all that stuff. Okay, what do people do? Like, well, we want to be valuable to each other and to society. Well, it won't be about productivity. That's not how you're going to be valuable. Robots got that down. That's not where we want you. But there's still going to be a demand for people. Where? Well, parenting, for example, some leisure, entertainment, taking care of each other, giving to each other. There's a bunch of stuff where we find value with each other. It's not going to be about feeding the other person. It's going to be about maybe feeding our minds, maybe giving each other value and that are special to each other. And the value will be subjective, not objective.
Right.
If I paint a picture for you, you may be touched that it comes from me, so that's value, but it's not going to be a great painting. I can give you that. Okay, but I'm the one that made it. That's
Right.
value. It's a subjective amount of value. It doesn't mean I need to do that for 100 people or 365 people in order to eat. No, it's because I'm doing it because I want to share an emotion. I want to share a feeling. I want to. So this is this fuzziness that we don't quite understand and have to design. In Roddenberry's Future of the Federation, there is no money.
Right.
People are
Yeah.
doing stuff
Right.
that they're passionate about and sometimes taking risks because they want to, but it's not because they have to do this work in order to have food on the table.
But
Everything's
they do have
provided by
Federation
technology,
credits.
energy, and everything, right?
There is Federation credits on Star Trek, even like Star Wars, Star Trek. They do have a certain. It's not money, but there is a credit system where
Yeah.
if you go to a bar, for example, and I know it's from the Next Generation with the bar, and it was a big year.
Oh, the
Deep
Ferengi.
Space, the Ferengis and Deep Space Nine. Sorry, when they go to the Ferengi bar and they expect to be paid, if not, it's gonna get
Yeah.
really. So
Well, that's something unique in the race, in the advanced races
yeah,
in that fiction. The Ferengi have money. Every other race that are significant don't have money. But the
right.
Ferengi has a culture that's based around money, and therefore they've created a currency that is hard to forge, and I don't know the details of it. But
Yeah,
this is
strange.
ultimately like, this is not impossible. This is probably something like, at least the economy where things are so abundant, energy is so abundant, and so easy to produce things that everything costs nothing.
Yeah,
Everything costs, and you can make everything like you have a replicator, like a 3D printer, basically a more advanced 3D printer in your home out of energy and soil. Put it in, makes your dish. Like, all right, like I'm not buying for this. Like, just took it out of the sun and the air and my soil. Like, it costs friggin' nothing. I want another 3D printer. I use one to make the other one.
Yeah.
That's kind of like if you go not that far, but far enough. Well, you got that. That's how you get an economy that is completely commoditized, where everything's free. When things are so cheap and easy to make because of technology, that there's no need for people to hand off and have a service and like that. And what do you do during your day? Well, whatever you want.
But that's where even the Star Trek outcome is kind of like it's a nice sci-fi, but why would we send humans into deep space when we could just send artificial intelligence in warp speed and not have to go through the hassle of being liquefied if we have to go like light speed, for example, which human bodies can take that, as we know, without certain technologies which we don't know, quote unquote. But unless we can bend space and time, wormholes, and do all kinds of like warp speeds, we can't just go to Alpha Centauri or some of those galaxies without being, liquefied in light speed. So unless we have some form of AI that drives these machines, I think humanity is kind of like stuck on Earth. But I think that's a smarter way of traveling, even for ETs. That's and this is my closing question, because I know we're short on time here. But my closing question to you is: could a lot of the ETs, not that have been here, that are like us, flesh and bones for the most part, are organic, but some of the ones that are coming down here, could it not be that they themselves are artificial intelligence sent to far space missions from their race, and they're observing us, sending back the data to their home world, and this is like how they communicate back and forth without sending living beings and putting them in danger? Because even not just the liquefying part in hyperspeed, but there's also a human danger, and if we can match those speeds for whatever reason, just to get to another galaxy, it won't be us that go on the initial ship. It'll be generations after that that actually make it there. And at that point, would they even be like, what was the purpose again of this mission? It's been thousands of years. Those people are gone on Earth. Why are we even going to this world? What's our purpose? And it'll be like a whole different mindset.
Second movie that the science fiction movie talked about this, where they start off as a generation ship and they go to Alpha Centauri or something. And then it may have been a book I read in science fiction, and the generation ship gets there, 100 years later, right? And by the time they get there, the humanity figure out a way to get there faster. So they arrive there, and their descendants arrive there like the day before. They just like use a wormhole. It's like, oh, you got here. It's like, yeah, we figured out a way to get here faster, and that you didn't have to go through that whole trip. That was kind of interesting. but
sorry about the last 100 years,
Sorry, you wasted all those generations on this crap ship. But I think a useful tool to kind of figure out these possibilities is to think about, what would we do, right? Like Musk, for example, he's going to send some, and also on the moon, which is not Musk, but NASA. Before they set up a base there, they're going to send drones and automated systems and robots to start building stuff and to explore, blah, blah, blah. And this is really close. This is within our solar system, because it's less risky and less costly, because people are freaking expensive to maintain, and it's risky. So you do all the automated stuff, you can do, and in 20 or 40 years, we're going to do a lot more automated stuff, because they can build a whole colony on their own using resources without ever sending an engineer on Mars, right? And then once everything kind of safe and all settled, so all right, well, let's take a ride over there, right? And taking 6 months, which is not, I guess, not that bad, over to Mars. So ETs, why would they risk contact with us directly, especially landing with us crazy folk, right? Most of it is probably drones, synthetic biology, all that stuff, projections, like holograms from afar. Like, why would they risk their own physical bodies doing this on their own? which in my mind could explain the variety of different appearances you see, because
Yes.
it may not be them, it may be like created robots, humanoid or otherwise, that seem to be very
Right.
functional, like the grays, like they don't have a mouth, and like some of them like
Right.
they look like hyper functional, but
They move
not that like
robotically according to people. Yeah.
not sophisticated in many ways. Like, well, these are probably just drones sent to us there to observe and report back, like you said. And the conversations I've been having with some of the contactees is like those that they're talking to through with what seems to them physical, but they never left the bed, right? So it's probably telepathic or whatever.
Right.
They are sophisticated bodies like ours, and they have emotions, and they interact like in a very natural way.
Right.
But they're not physically in touch, like holding hands. They're
So
still safely somewhere,
communicating.
and projecting themselves or something to Earth where in a safe way, because they're smart, just like we would not
Right.
do that. When the embassy is built and everything is safe and like everybody's singing kumbaya on Earth, right? Like and then they may come down for the first time or for very very rare occasions in their own bodies to honor us and so on. But until then, no, I expect clones and robots and drones and all that stuff, because that's just smart. You can communicate through that just like we can. The ideas that we're kind of converging on, like the experts, I mean, like myself and others on these topics, it really looks like shit. We can make the Federation. Like we can actually build that thing. Like not tomorrow. Like it's a goal. It's a process. But that whole Roddenberry vibe, it comes up a lot, and not in those terms, just in tidbits, like the multiplanetary concept, the no money, type of concept, new systems, and so on. People not worried about healthcare and food anymore, which would be super relevant to everybody on the planet Earth. And our existing systems are extremely old and breaking at the seams, and it's apparent to everybody. Like there's massive problems. It's not only in the States where there's a struggle politically, right? It's probably the most advertised one, because of the people involved, and it's the U.S. But everywhere else I talk about, like the governance, like even here in Thailand, I mean, people are just like friggin' tired.
Definitely, no, everywhere. Look,
Just
even in Cuba, which I never thought would happen a couple of years ago. Like people are like in the streets, and I'm like, "Holy shit, it's finally happening!" And
yeah,
I was hoping it would get a lot worse, because we need that in Cuba. I'm Cuban, so we need
yeah,
people to like just stand up and say like, "Enough!" That we've had enough of this nonsense. And I thought it was going to get really bloody, and then it just ended, and I'm like, "Damn it!" I mean, you had a revolution. It was bad, but now you're afraid to have a revolution and make things better. Like at some point, humanity does have to take, its self more serious, and just like we got to just, put the bullshit aside and just, say, forget, your
yeah.
crazy rules, forget this craziness against us, and we just gotta like, think for ourselves. If we don't like the system, we got to go in and modify it to a correct system. I don't think, like I said, changing the American system, from one day to the next is a mistake, but gradually changing it is fine. But in a place like Cuba, you just need to like overthrow that government and
Oh,
completely start over. I mean,
in some
there's
cases,
no
it's gonna happen
saving that
really, really
place.
quickly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
no, definitely. And the U.S. is very complicated because of all the states and so on. But also, America has had a history, not a recent history, but fairly, in the 20th century, history to be able to turn on its head and do something great really quick.
yeah,
It can, but it has to feel the pressure, right? And people coming together, it's like, okay, like let's do this together. If there's division and people kind of screaming at each other from like multiple directions, then it screeches to a halt, because like there's no agreement, no consensus. But when the Second World War started with Pearl Harbor, for example. That was like a turning point where everybody kind of mobilized, like, all right, everybody together, we're doing this now. And I think you can have a Pearl Harbor movement moment without an attack from a foreign power. In this case, more about risk of like everything's going to collapse. Right?
Yeah.
And people are going to say, "Oh shit! All right, okay, now we're going to stop fighting each other. Like we need to fix this now, and we can do it." And the U.S. has a history to be able to do that, even though it's complicated. It can.
Yeah.
But it needs that precipice moment, I think.
Yeah.
To do that.
And we need to stop. The first thing we need to do is stop funding endless wars and having people die endlessly for stupid reasons. So that's the number one problem in the world, is just the nonstop hating, the nonstop wars. Whose God is better than whose God, and this land belongs to my people 7,000 years ago, so I must take it back. Who cares? You know, like, let's
Look to
move
the
on.
future, right?
You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm pro humans. I'm not pro Israel, Palestine, pro this, pro that. I'm pro humanity, and that's
Yeah.
the number one thing. We're not different species. We're all one species, and we all need to like be pro humans, pro species, pro planet, and that's the mindset that we're losing in this world, and it's very sad.
Oh,
Everybody's like
very.
divided, and it's divide and conquer, right?
Yeah. But I can tell you something, like figuratively or actually physically, make sure there's food and on everybody's table
Yeah,
and a roof over their head. Any way you can achieve that, doesn't
yeah,
matter, right? Any way you can achieve that, a lot of wars stop on track. Like, because people are the ones fighting the wars. And like if
yeah,
they're safe and the other people are safe and my neighbors are safe, like, all right, I'm gonna stay home and eat.
yeah.
Like I'm not go out. So that can solve a lot of problems. Right now, a lot of wars are fear-based and anger-based because
Yeah.
people are afraid of the food and the shelter.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not going to have that. So I must go into the military, or I must do this, or I must defeat the enemy, or because it's a threat to my survival. Remove the threat of survival. A lot of people are going to say, no, I'm going to stay home.
yeah.
Like, forget your freaking war, like for oil or whatever. Like, no, just gonna hang out here. I'm gonna be fine.
That's why I think the universal income is it's a great idea, but it's not going to happen because of that reason.
Yeah, it's
Unless we really
it could
change
happen
stuff.
in Canada fairly recently
Yeah,
because Canada's Canada.
yeah,
In countries in Europe, if it starts going there, the states are gonna, even though a lot of the idea actually comes from the states,
yeah.
from basic income, from history, but the states being what it is, and the divisions between states and whatnot, they're probably going to lag behind on it, and they for sure they won't copy another country that has a successful implementation because it's a different country. They're going to have to decide for themselves if it's good for them, because the US is like that. Since some of the other countries are like that. Europe is going to follow each other. But I think it's going to cause a lot of stability politically and with wars if there's a basic income in there. So because now you're stabilizing everybody's income. It's like people are like, all right, like this is great, right? Like now I don't worry. I can go back to school. I can become an entrepreneur because like I don't need to do this crappy job. Let AI do that freaking job. Like I hate it. It's dangerous. Like let me like be the prompt engineer or whatever I said earlier, and go back to school and do that because that sounds interesting and has some promise or whatever they may think. It's a good transitional tool until we get to the point where like, yeah, everybody's got a basic income, so why do we have it? Just remove that hindrance and then we can do something a bit different where it's like everything abundant. It's going to take a bit of time, and I don't know. And nobody really knows the details of the next few years, how this transition and how things are going to pan out. We just know that AI is going to be great. It's going to get way better. And we know it's going to have impact on occupations and tasks and all that stuff to a certain way. We know people have to adjust to it. We just don't know how we're going to do it, and how fast it's all going to go. And which is why I've been promoting the idea of like, let's freaking make a plan then. Let's decide on something.
Yeah.
we don't know. All right, not knowing is scary. Well, if we make a plan and it makes sense, at least even if it's a bad one, at least we have a
No,
plan.
but even if it's a bad one, yeah, at least you're starting off saying, okay, this is an idea. Now let's work on what is, could lead in a bad direction, and let's try to fix it and make it better. And that's how
Yeah,
you
iterate.
create a better system and a better outcome to everything. Not everybody is going to hop right in and be like, I'm all in. Everybody's gonna have an idea and stuff, and you have to kind of structure, especially when you're dealing with a complete overhaul of whatever the system is. It's something new. People are gonna have they're gonna want input. And now think about it. We're talking about billions of people on the planet all wanting to have an input.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, this is where I tell you. Sometimes you need a little structure. You need somebody to be okay. I'll be the
Yeah.
voice for all you billions, because it's gonna be a very, very heavy, carried conversation when all these voices are like chattering all over the place. I want this. I want that. I want that. Okay, yeah. And
Oh, no,
that's
I want this.
like
Oh,
that.
I want social media and the chatter to be turned back down, not up.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
cut me off, man.
That's gonna make it blow up even worse, I think.
Oh,
Initially,
no, it's
it would.
just terrible. Just
Yeah.
like stop my notifications, man. All right, I gotta go, man.
Me
We'll
too.
talk
I
again
gotta
soon,
get
okay?
podcast here. I love having you on, man. You're awesome. You're awesome.
All right, thanks, bud. Well, you are awesome as well.
We'll talk soon again. We'll bring you back on, and we'll do this once again.
Okay, cool. Cheers.
Peace, brother. Take care. Look, I know we're out of time. I know you're busy and you're tired in the future over there. Sylvain, you're awesome, man. I love having you on. We got to bring you on again. We're gonna do a lot of stuff as long as I'm alive, and
Yep.
in better health. I'm gonna be doing a lot of stuff in the next year. 2025 should be big, so hopefully we include you in some stuff because I love talking to you. And I want to give you a chance to tell the audience how to get to you. Give the links out. I want people to be able to follow your work because it's very important. Again, not just for current times, but for the future.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, man.
So give all the audience where they
Oh,
can find you. Yeah.
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's probably the best way to find me for basically everything that I do because I don't work all for the Alliance. I'm also a futurist and so on. So go and find Sylvain Rochon and find a person that looks like me here on LinkedIn. Because the link, I think you can find it on my bio on PSN as well.
Yeah.
If you just prefer clicking on one. So that's going to be pretty easy. And get in touch with me. I'm open to all sorts of suggestions.
LinkedIn, Facebook. I know that you used to have, those separate website. That's gone now. But it's very easy if you guys want to find them. Sylvain Rochon. It's spelled Sylvain. Last name Rochon, Rochon. Make sure you spelled it properly. If not, you're gonna wind up with somebody else who's talking about like the flat Earth. You don't want that. You want to get the right Sylvain. Again,
Thanks a lot,
you're a
man.
genius, man. I love having you on, and I love what you guys are doing. Keep up the good work. And we'll be chopping it up more in the future. It's like, the future is not written; it's just ahead of our time, and one step at a time. We're gonna get there, hopefully in one piece, so we make that transition from type 0 to type 1, alive and well, and we could look at the future in the face and see how we advance, and look our brothers from outer space in the face, and say, how do you do, and not get blown away. Like the Indians, poor guys.
Yeah. And the future is what we make it, eh? So
Yeah,
let's make a good one.
Thank you again, my friend, for being on here, and everybody, thank you for joining us. Stay safe, stay sound, stay alive. And in a couple of days, we're going to find out what the future holds. Whether it would be Big Orange Dummy or Kamala Harris, the evil lady from India. We'll find out one way or the other. So until next time, everybody, have a great, great evening. And if you don't see me again, well, it might be for the best, maybe for the worst. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, bye, bye!
Motorboat? You play the motorboat?